Hello, everyone. And I'm here today to give you some practical uses of AI and have a couple of discussions around this, okay? So one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is that, in all of the teams that I manage and control and help developing, speed for us is important because we want to go into loops of validation with users. And who knows me and works me, they know that I always push the teams to work and having validated ideas in 8 days. And today I will show you maybe how you can use AI to help you to validate ideas in 8 days. But as well, we have now kind of an experimental stage that I'm working on. And also we will try to validate it in 8 minutes using AI. And the reason that we want to do this, we need to go very much in a journey together, right? We need to understand and look at problems from a new perspective. And it's important that we zoom out, and I heard today a couple of questions about which the processes should we use with AI. So zooming out to the process level and see how do we use AI at the process level, okay? And I do this in 2 stages of my life. One is that I'm the head of design at Every, and I'm in charge of the public sector. And the second one, I have my own consultancy work that is called Human Lab, and we are in both cases looking at the same problems, right? It's like, how do we create value, but not more important than just value? How do we deliver value that is validated to the user? There is no more waste that if we develop something and then the user doesn't want to have it, why doing it, right? So it's important that we iterate fast to get to this point. And these are, of course, all of us. Right? We have this mission, more or less, in this room. It's like, how do we deliver value to users? Okay? So I want to give you a statistic, because this is an important statistic. This is a statistic by Bain & Company, where they say that 80% of the global companies, they believe that they deliver value to the customer. And what's very good about this report is that then they ask the customer, and 8% of the customers agrees. Right? Very big problem that we have. And trust me, this is, of course, we think that this is the big company's problems, but as head of design, this is also my problem, and I have to address this. In the gap, this 80 to 8, something goes wrong, and I can give you 20 years of my experience, okay? There are 3 main things that I have seen that goes wrong in these large organizations. Number 1, innovation cycles are just too slow. It takes too much time. We get lost in iterations. We get lost in edge cases. And then when we deliver to the market, the clients don't want it anymore. It took us too long. Either the needs has changed, or we just misoriented the discussions, and now it has pivoted to something that has no value. Number 2, very often R&D lacks connection to customers. And this happens very often. We deliver what we can, not what the customer wants. It's a big, big problem that happens. And last but not least, there's a lot of projects that have very few customer metrics. It's always easy to say we have to deliver X in X time, but it's very hard to say, okay, what is the metric? When do we say that we are actually delivered something that has meaningful, that has impact, that they actually really want? So it's with this mindset that I'm here today, where we want to rethink how we do innovation. And I want to show you 2 different models that we have here today. On the one side, we have AI-empowered workflow, and later I'll show you AI-driven workflows. Okay? In this first model, an AI-empowered workflow, this is based on the double diamond. Maybe can I just, by raising your hand, who here knows the double diamond process? Okay, quite a lot of people know the double diamond process. So the double diamond, for those that don't know, is just a process of iterating and looking for the problems before we kind of commit to the final decision. Okay? In Every, what we are doing is that we are looking at the double diamond, say we believe in this process and we want to use it, but we will now want to add AI layer to it, making sure that it helps us when we need. There's not such a thing as too many designers in a team. My designers are always booked for 150%. So I need to gain some space to either achieve more or achieve the right things. And a good analogy for that is imagine that these AI tools, it's almost like a GPS. It's there to help us finding our way through the process. It's an advice, but I'm still controlling, so I'm still driving the car. One of these tools you can actually meet outside is a very interesting tool. It's called Breta. And this solved the big problem that we have inside of our design team. So the problem that I had inside of my design team is that every designer that faces a problem says, I need to go and talk with users. And then they have this interaction with users, then it gets stored, but nobody else accesses it. So the next designer comes along, has the same question, goes again to another interview, and this cycle repeats. But nobody really uses the interviews from the past. Every new problem has a new interview. So with Breta, what we are trying to do is having like a platform where we can centralize all our interviews, the ones done by me, the ones done by my team, and then I can come and I can question these interviews. And this helps me either to do two things. Either I understand that this question already has been answered, and I find the answer, or if I understand, okay, the answer is not there, but I still maybe will use elements to sharpen. So when I go out for iteration, I'm one step ahead. So I'm going to give you just a very brief demo on how this works, but you can also see it outside. So in this case, you can see that we are just adding some user tests. There are 8 of them. They are all in video format and all in Norwegian. And the first thing that I do is that I give it context. I ask it, this is the type of information that I'm looking for. And then automatically, he will try to synthesize and give me some good examples of insights that are inside of this interview. So it's searching specifically for what I'm asking. And if I want, I can actually go to the real quote or to the video snippet. And when that is the case, then I can validate. The AI is actually giving me the right insights. And now I decide what I do with this insight. Is it good enough that answers my question? Do I still go out? All these good possibilities. But now we are leveraging each other's research. So now instead of everyone doing their research by one time, before we go out, we make sure that we kind of pre-evaluate all the research that has been done in the past. Another tool that I also use very often, it's, of course, FigJam by Figma. And FigJam is basically a whiteboard when teams can come and help and collaborate on a specific problem. And often, it's me that I organize these workshops and I have to manage these workshops. And I can tell you that I spend many, many nights until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning preparing the session. So the next day I can come at 8 o'clock in the morning and start this session, right? It's very time consuming to organize a workshop and making sure that I have everything in place, that I can put the teams together and that I'm able to extract the value that I can. And FigJam has now come up with this FigJam AI tool, and I'll just give you just a brief demo on how that would work. So in this case, I will ask it we are starting a workshop, and I'll just ask to make a fun icebreaker. So we start very light. I like to start my workshops very light. Everybody gets motivated and have fun. We get to know each other. And then you can see that it automatically starts creating the icebreaker. And these are just examples. In this case, we have like virtual travel, emoji introduction, and brain teasers, for example. Very simple icebreakers. But now what was very interesting, in the meeting before that I had with the team, we discussed, okay, what are the problems that we are facing inside of the project? Right? What are the things that we should have a workshop upon? And what happened is that I grabbed this transcript of our previous meeting, and I now paste it in FigJam, and I say, hey, can you please organize a workshop based on what we have discussed in our last meeting? And as you can see, he starts organizing the workshop. This doesn't mean that the workshop is perfect and it's well organized and everything. I still have to come and iterate. But the big part of the work already has been done. And another thing that I can also do is, often we also use these whiteboards to store ideas. So I also say, like, during the meeting that we had a lot of ideas, right? I'm not sure exactly what happened to these ideas, but I want to make sure that they also get kind of allocated here in the same board. So you'll see that I'll just write and paste the transcript, and he automatically will look out of the whole transcript and actually allocate the main ideas. Now, what I do, of course, start the session, and now I can go and validate if the things that that are written are accurate, and often they are not, so I have to take some care. But this task that used to take me hours and hours and hours of sleep, I now can do probably in a couple of hours, and then I'm done. Workshop is ready, and I can proceed. Another tool that we are also using, and this is a very interesting tool for fast prototyping, it's called ShadCN, and we are using it mainly for prototyping, but depends on how you want to do it, and it uses kind of React and Tailwind as starting tools. And it really helps us getting into visualization of prototypes really fast and more or less in wireframe mode, okay? So in this example, I want to show you ShadCN. I'm going to say, okay, please, I want to create a website in dark mode for Oslo. And you'll see that I will give it 3 adjectives in this case. I want to have it sleek, modern, and professional. And now what I have done in parallel to this is that I went to ChatGPT and say, okay, tell me how Oslo website should look like, what are the characteristics that it should have, and I'll paste it here. This is the full text that comes out of ChatGPT. And now what starts to happen, almost instantaneously when I press enter, he starts coding a full new website. And this is live code. And you'll see that now he will start first uploading the libraries. Then he'll start making categories. And ultimately, he'll start making a preview for us. And this is happening in real time. So if I decide that I don't like the output, I can go back to the text, say, I want to make this and these changes, I want to make these iterations, and then we have prototype. It goes a little bit to the discussion that we had in the morning, that a designer cannot go 4 hours out of a meeting room and then come back in. Right? It takes too long. So this happens much more live. So what we see now is that our designers and our PMs and our tech people, they sit together and they use this to fast prototype and to understand if this is what they were visualizing, what they were discussing. In this case, you can see it's more or less in a wireframe, but it's a fully developed prototype in actual code. And you can see you can switch from light mode to dark mode. And now the limit is how much input you want to give it and how much changes. This does not replace design, so we still have to go in design. As you can see, there is content that is missing, there are images that is missing. But the overall flow, you can already create. And this is really important. Speed. So we want to have iterations, so we can actually talk with the client. And at the same time that the client is giving us feedback, somebody is on the side making live changes into this prototype, and then we deliver the same prototype at 2 minutes later after the client has asked for changes. So far, I talked a lot about AI-empowered workflow, where we have a traditional double diamond with an AI layer on top that helps us in certain tasks and making sure the designer's focusing on what matters, not on these technical tasks. This is an AI-driven model. This is called the Stingray model by the Board of Innovation. So by raise of hands, who knows about the Stingray model? A couple, maybe, cannot count, but maybe 1%, I think, of the room. Okay, so I'll try to explain what is the Stingray model. It's a slightly different than the double diamond. The double diamond mainly is a human process where we layer the AI on top. The Stingray model is actually the opposite. It's an AI-driven process where humans are on top managing it, if that makes sense. So you're training AI to do tasks, and then you're just seeing if the tasks are being executed. So if in the other model we had the GPS, the analogy for this model is a self-driven car. I sit inside of the car, I set the direction, I set where I want to end up, but I'm not actually driving. I'm managing, I'm there, I have control. If I want, I can steer the car, but if everything is going okay, I'm just watching the car going from point A to point B. And this is an experiment that I'm using in the human lab. So I'll talk through this because it's very, very important. Okay? We want to validate concepts with AI and with humans at a crazy speed. And try to define, out of all of these concepts, which is the one that we should invest to go to full development. Innovation fails. It's the life of innovation. We are constantly failing. So finding the one, going through a large amount of iterations is what is really important for me. So I'm going to give you an example. Every time that you'll see a white dot, It's a concept that has been created and validated. So that was one. This is another. And this is another. So imagine that this is the speed that I'm talking about creating concepts, validating, and then analyzing if we need to use it or not. What's also very interesting, this was also discussed here in the morning, is that every concept, we can add what is called AI agents. Okay? AI agents are basically AI workers. And then we can set different points of view. We can say, you are an AI PM with X amount of years of experience, and this is the data that backs you up. And what they do is that they help you formulating the ideas. So this allows us to probably have about 6,000 iterations in minutes. Let me just show you how that looks like. So in this software that I'm developing, I'm first and foremost uploading a brief. And the first thing that the AI does is like, okay, he gives me a super short indication of what does the brief contain. Then we go into the agents. Agents can be created. In this case, AI suggested these agents. And the agents are trying to define what is the brief. And you can see here we have one agent. Her name is Sophie. She's 25 years old. She's a digital marketing specialist. She's an AI character, right? But she will act like an AI, like a marketing specialist AI. And what it now does is that now we are going to create different concepts. As you can see, we pressed refresh, and automatically there was 3. And this was out of the 60,000 possibilities, they think that these 3 are the best ones. And one of the things that I can do now is that I can ask Sophie, and in this case, I'll also ask Lily, as AI agents, okay, tell me what you think about this concept. Is it good? Is it bad? Should I change it? Should I iterate it? Is it meeting the brief? And you'll see that I'll select it, and I will get a quick evaluation. And what is interesting is that because they are looking from 2 different points of view, one will say that it's excellent because they believe that it meets their description, and the other says that it's fair. So I now can open a chat, and I can select, for example, Sophie, and I ask, why do you rate it this way? Why do you think that this concept is good or bad or mediocre? And I can have a discussion with her, and I can use these points of discussion to iterate. I'm still in control. This is my concept, and AI is providing me feedback, and now I can decide what to do with it. What is also very interesting, and we are building this into the software as we go along, is that, okay, we have now a concept, we think that it works, AI has validated this concept, but we want to have a visualization. It could be in ChatCN, it could be an image generator, for us it doesn't matter. And what we do is that we now ask, okay, can you please visualize what is the concept? What was the thing that they were asking inside of the brief? They will make this. And instantaneously, you'll see that it will create the image, and we can link it to, for example, social media. In this case, we will link it to LinkedIn. And we'll upload this in LinkedIn. And now real humans can actually interact with this concept and validate, this is a great idea, this is a bad idea, we don't like it. So now we can bring humans in real time to give input to this. These humans and this data is going to be fed back to the AI agents, closing a loop. And now not only we can create really fast concepts, we can validate them really fast and then use this feedback loop back to the AIs so he knows what is working and what is not working. And in this crazy loop that we have, the amount of iterations is unbelievable. So I just want to close up. We want to go into and try out this idea of customer-validated innovation in 8 minutes, not in 8 days. This is, of course, a new world, but we expect that we'll have productivity gains about 80%. So we'll be doing the right thing more often. And more importantly is that we will allow designers to focus on what it matters. So I want to start where I have begun, with looking at the big picture. So which process do we use, and how do we use them to deliver, great value for customers? But more importantly, that frees the designer from doing these mundane tasks of creating prototypes to AI and really focus on customers and users. So I hope that this was an inspiring talk. Thank you so much.